Welcome back to Troy Drone Flights, and I'm Troy. Well, I recently picked up the Mavic Air 2, and got a lot to share with you guys about it. Some features, got some video to share with you guys of my experience with it. Very much pleased with the drone. So much to talk about, so much to get into. So let's do that. So I did a lot of research before I decided to get the Mavic Air 2. You know, coming from the Mavic Mini, you know, I knew I wanted a drone that was able to shoot 4K footage. And with the Mavic Air 2, I can shoot 4K 60 frames per second. Whereas with the Mavic Mini, I was only able to shoot 2.7K 30 frames per second with no zoom supported at all. And that's just what I had to work with for some time, due to the fact that I'm still kind of new getting into this hobby. Again, this is my second drone. And, you know, I wanted to bring more content to the channel, and I wanted to up the quality. And, you know, reviews that I've read have always raved about the Mavic Air 2. It's just about the versatility and the fact that it can do so much. So while the Mavic Mini was getting me by for some time, you know, it was just so many different things that began to become an issue for me. And one of those things was the transmission. And the OcuSync transmission was one of the best things that I've been experiencing with the Mavic Air 2, because I haven't been experiencing no issues. I haven't lost signal at all. Then again, I haven't done any long range tests or anything like that. I haven't been flying like in the city where there's a lot of buildings, a lot of obstacles that may block the signal, so I have to admit that. But with the Mavic Mini, with the Wi-Fi transmission, you know, everything typically gets in the way. You know, I can't fly within 50 feet without something causing an issue with the reception, you know, with the screen lagging, and the transmission range was just about 4 kilometers, and it just wasn't great. You know, it wasn't the cutting edge of the OcuSync 2.0 technology that is offered with the Mavic Air 2. And of course, that extends the transmission range. Of course, when you're operating these drones, I have to repeat again, you have to operate the drone and it has to stay within eyesight of the pilot at all times. So says the FAA, and I'm operating within all compliance. So, you know, you're not going to get, or I haven't experienced any kind of transmission issues so far. But the flight time was another issue with the Mavic Mini. You know, even though I bought 3 batteries, and, you know, that factor in, you know, because you was able to get maybe about 25 minutes out of the Mavic Mini, depending on how you fly. You know, and if it's a windy day, expect it to drain fairly quick, and if it's a really cold day, expect to get about half of that. So 15 minutes. You know, I live in the New England area, so if I'm flying a lot and it's normally cold during the winter time, I'm getting 15 minutes per battery. And if I'm catching video and I'm flying back and forth, I'm not flying that far out, because, you know, it's going to take me some time to get back because it's cold and it's windy. So, you know, I don't want to take chances of getting my drone stuck somewhere and it can't return home and things of that nature. So I didn't want to have to deal with the battery issues anymore or the flight time. So that was another plus, because with the Mavic Air 2, it's just, they give you about 34 minutes of flight time. You just can't beat that, you know, at all. You can't beat that. So, of course, you're going to get the quick shots ability with the Mavic Air 2, which is great. You get some of the same features that you get with the Mavic Mini. Actually, you get a little bit more. But with the Mavic Mini, you know, they no longer allow panorama shots anymore. Also, they didn't allow you to edit your videos anymore. So, you know, with the Mavic Air 2, they allowed you to do these things, which were great. You know, the software is much quicker, and it's more pliable and durable to, you know, ease of access. You know, with the DJI app, it's very simple. It's very dumb simple, to be quite honest. It's not very sophisticated, to be quite honest. It's user friendly. Anyone can typically pick up that app and understand what they're looking at within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of just looking at it, you know, touching it, trying things out for the first time, and just understanding things for what they are, just from just trying things out and just looking at it. You know, I've tried a couple of other apps from different drones that other people owned, and I'm like looking at it like, what the hell am I doing? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna need some time to even figure out how to even launch this thing before I even think about even flying this thing. So I don't even know how to even get the propellers to go before I even think about flying this thing. But that's either here or there. But the Mavic Air 2, it's just been a joy to just fly. It's very easy to fly, and it's very cool to fly, and it just checks off every box that I need right now at the moment. Let's get into the features of the new Mavic 2 Air, and let's start with the flight time. The new Mavic Air 2 flight time is now 34 minutes compared to 21 minutes on the Mavic Air. Now, you know, I know when I fly my drone, normally I want to take a lot of photos, but I also want to take video. And normally the first thing that I do, I normally go for the video, because normally I want to take at least 4 to 5 minutes of decent, good 4K video, and that's normally what I go to. And you know, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, I want to take nothing but dope, awesome photos. So having 34 minutes of flight time is pretty cool. Let's go to the stronger stabilization. The Mavic 2 Air can also fly higher in winds than the average Mavic Air. And of course, that's due to the motors and the fact that it is a little bit heavier than the Mavic Air, to be quite honest. The video transmission. The Mavic Air 2 has OcuSync 2.0 with HDR video transmission of 6.2 miles, which is 10 kilometers compared to the 2.5 miles, which is 4 kilometers on the original Mavic Air. Now listen, guys. You know the FAA is listening, and you got to fly this drone within eyesight of the operator. So, and I say that very clearly, make sure you're flying this drone and you keep it in your eyesight at all times. But you can fly this thing far out, and I kind of find that very dope. It also comes with a improved camera. The Mavic Air 2 has a 48 megapixel camera, which is allowing you to shoot photos up to 8K. So this is going to future-proof, you know, your camera capability on your drone. You know, right now we're shooting 4K, and 8K is right around the corner, but we're not quite there yet. But you know, even 4K photos are dope. But when we get to 8K, you're still going to be able to use your Mavic Air 2. New camera features. The Mavic Air 2 uses high dynamic range color optimization and new smart photo intelligence, and allow you to capture stunning professional photos. It can also shoot 4K video at 60 frames per second and slow motion video at 240 frames per second at 1080p, all in HDR. So, I mean, listen, if you want to go 1080p and you want to go 240 frames per second, you can do that. Plus you get the HDR, which is going to give you that vibrant, high pop color of, you know, your greens are super green and your reds are bright red. You can't really beat that. And this is all in the drone. These type of camera settings normally you get like in a handheld camera. And you know, the fact that you're getting this in a drone that's flying in the air at that, you really can't beat that. The improved intelligent flight modes in the Mavic Air 2 now has Active Track 3.0 and Spotlight 2.0, Points of Interest 3.0, and 6 quick shots. So you're going to get some new quick shots. You're going to actually be able to active track this thing with the 3.0 update. So, you know, you're going to be able to active track if you like riding your bike, you like, you know, running. This thing going to be able to follow you. Plus, you're going to get the obstacle avoidance and stuff like that. So, you know, you're not going to be crashing this thing into trees, or it's going to be able to avoid certain things at certain heights. So just be aware of that. You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to get the improved obstacle avoidance. The Mavic Air 2 uses vision sensors and TFO sensors along with APAS 3.0 for vastly improved obstacle avoidance technology. So this drone is very expensive, of course. It goes into the $1,000 range, and you can expect this drone to have that type of technology. You know, I'm coming from the Mavic Mini. You know, it has no kind of obstacle avoidance at all. You just got to be a good pilot, or you're going to be crashing that thing. And I've crashed it a couple of times, but the obstacle avoidance goes a long way. But then again, you know, I've gotten accustomed to flying drones now, so I'm pretty decent at flying now, and I know the cost of these things, so I try my best not to crash them. But the obstacle avoidance helps out a lot, and it goes a long way. It's way worth the money, and I'm glad that they added that feature to this particular drone. The remote controller. It's a totally brand new controller. You know, coming from the Mavic Mini, I really didn't like the controller because for me it was too small. I got very large hands, and I didn't like the fact that my phone had to go underneath the controller. You know what I mean? Whereas with the Mavic 2 Air controller, your phone actually goes on top of the actual controller, which makes sense, and it's actually more comfortable. I like the grip on the back. It's more grippy. It gives you more of like a gaming controller type feel when I actually have that controller in my hand. So I'm glad that DJI actually decided to go with a completely different controller. Even though now, if you get the Mavic Mini 2, this very same controller comes with the Mavic Mini 2. And of course, you get the new app. The Mavic Air 2 uses the DJI Fly app now. So, I mean, it's just so many different things that you're gonna get coming with the Mavic Air 2 once you cross over and you get it. And all of these features are just features that you just can't pass up. And I know since getting the Mavic Air 2, I've just been content and happy with it. And I'm glad that DJI decided to put a lot of these features in this particular drone at this price point, because it makes a lot of sense. And it's actually way user-friendly than a lot of people believe. On this particular day that I was flying, it was fairly windy and it was fairly cold. I believe it was about 28 degrees and it was below the freezing point. But at the same time, people were out, and I was very surprised because normally, you know, especially near the water, you know, you don't really get that much activity. Normally people don't really, you know, parlay as often during the winter time in New England, near the, you know, boats, near the battleship, near the cove. And I was quite surprised that people were actually out, but people were just out. They were actually vlogging. People were doing videos. So it was pretty cool to see that I wasn't the only one out here freezing. And for the most part, I needed to wear gloves and a hat, which I did. So I was kind of prepared this day. Whereas in a video that I did a couple of weeks ago with the Mavic Mini, I was not prepared, and I actually maybe have experienced minor frostbite, but that's neither here or there. But I got the footage that I needed, and I got the video done. But I was just very excited that I was able to get the Mavic Air 2 out. It was the first flight, and I didn't want to crash this thing, you know, but I knew I wanted to put it through its paces, and so I did. And as you can see in a lot of the video, you know, I'm getting up and close on the battleship. You know, there's an overhead bridge. You know, I'm getting really good video, 4K 60 frames per second, and it's so clear. And that OcuSync system is just so consistent. You know, I didn't get any bad video lag or feedback to my phone, to the controller. It was just consistent all the way around. And when descending, you know, and I was in normal mode, of course, it descends so quick and effortlessly, you know, down through the air. And of course, when I got maybe down to about 30% of my battery life, I did a return to home just to see how this thing would actually configure with the GPS, and it returned immediately and directly to the location in which I launched it. And normally I launch it from the bed of my truck in most of the time, especially in areas where if I'm not able to launch in a park or something like that, depending on the location, if I'm in an urban area, I normally launch right from the bed of my truck. And this drone landed right in the bed of my truck, right from where it took off. So I was very impressed with that, because sometimes with the Mavic Mini, depending on if it's a windy day, the wind may blow it off course, and it'll land within maybe 5 to 10 feet of the bed of my truck. And I was even cool with that it even got that correct and got that close. But this, it was just consistent most of the time. The drone is very fast, let me say that. very snappy, and you know, it was very consistent, precise when I'm turning right, when I'm turning right, when I'm turning left. You know, I did some quick shots as well, not too many, because again, I didn't want to push this drone to the limits due to the location where I was at. And you know, I got the best shots that I can get at the time, but I am looking to take it to another state, which is adjacent to the state in which I live, where I will be catching some cool footage of a particular location that I used to frequent a lot, and I used to live in the vicinity of that location too, so stay tuned for that. But overall, so far, man, I've been having a joy with the drone. It's the ease of use, and being that I've been using the Mavic Mini and the DJI app for some time now, just booting it up and connecting it, you know, I was very familiar with it. The controls are pretty much the same at the end of the day. You know, it wasn't a departure from the Mavic Mini in that aspect of it. So I'm glad that there was some familiarity to actually being able to use a drone that I knew the ins and outs of the software when using it. But man, I'm very pleased with this particular drone so far. I'm looking to see where else it can take me and where else I can do with it. And stay tuned for more video and content with me on this channel with the Mavic Air 2. More to come.